Hi, I'm here to talk to you about some tools that were developed to serve underrepresented groups, or what we often refer to as URG. In 2023-24, Literacy Link Niagara received some in-year Skills for Success funding to develop some tools. Literacy Link Niagara partnered with Adult Basic Education Association, Literacy Network of Durham Region, Literacy Link South Central, and Rideau Ottawa Valley Literacy Network. Part one was to hold two open space virtual sessions. So these sessions brought together LBS practitioners and administrators from across Ontario and asked the question, who is not being served? So the goal was really to think about who was not coming into the classroom, where were the gaps in service. We took the information that was gathered from those virtual space sessions, and we used it to inform part two, which was the creation of tools to help encourage discussions around how to support those who may be underserved. And of course, every community is going to look different. So, and every program is going to look different. So you may have one program that's underserving perhaps the Indigenous community, or you might have another that's not really sure how to serve the trans community. And so this can look very different depending on your program and your location. The two tools that were developed were a learner package, which has a lesson and resources to be able to talk about equity, diversity, inclusion, and decolonization with learners. So really taking those values into your classroom, because everybody who's in your space is part of creating and fostering your learning environment. So we really wanted to create a tool that you could take directly to your learners. The second piece, the piece that we're going to talk about today, is the staff package. So this package, based in bibliotherapy, this is really, these are tools that you can take into a staff meeting. And I encourage you to consider adding them as an agenda item to several meetings, because this is something, equity, diversity, inclusion, and decolonization. It's not something that we kind of do and then we shelve. If you really want to live it in your program, then it's something that you need to do on a regular basis. A muscle you continue to need to flex to be able to grow. So I am going to walk you through the LBS staff package now. Let me change my screen. And here we are. This is the package that was developed. And you can see it's quite long. It's 116 pages. So I'm just going to walk you through an overview of what is included in this package. So really the first or most important part is the table of contents. So this is where you would go in such a large document to find what you need quickly. On page 2, we do have some information about how to use these resources. Then what we've done is, depending on the type of underrepresented group that you would like to better understand the experience of, we've broken up readings. So these readings are direct voices from these groups. So it's not somebody who's never experienced addiction issues talking about addiction issues. The voices included are people who have lived the experience of struggling with addiction issues. As same for Black voices, those are literally Black voices, people that have lived the experience of being a Black person. We have persons with disabilities, their voices, Indigenous peoples, LGBTQ2S+, persons with mental health issues, newcomers and immigrants, and persons living in poverty. So depending on after you've decided what type of resource you want to take in to your staff meeting, then you can use this to find some readings quickly. I'm just going to scroll through to the how to use the resources section. I'm not going to read it all to you, but I do want to flag a few pieces. So these packages, they're to help your staff better understand, as I said, the experiences of those living, experiences that may be underserved. Important to drive home the fact that not all people in a group have the same experiences. So we are not saying that these Black voices represent the experience of all Black people, that these resources about or voices of people living with disability, this does not represent everybody who lives with a disability. So we have tried to choose a variety of materials, but that being said, it cannot represent, it would oversimplify the issues to say that this speaks for that entire group, that each piece speaks for that entire group. These pieces are just about starting a dialogue where we can talk openly about complex issues, because this is how we are going to get to a space of better serving people. And that is the end goal. How do we serve underserved groups so they are no longer underserved? So I encourage you to have one person who's going to read through and choose one or two passages to read in a meeting. They're going to print copies of the passages so that they can pass them around at the time of the reading, but do not pass them out before the reading. It's really important that it's done. The readings are first seen by others in the meeting. It really helps with kind of that gut reaction to the reading to foster authentic conversation. What you do is you take that reading in, you just read it out loud as people follow along, and then you ask questions like, how did the writing make you feel? And maybe that's the only question you need to ask, because your staff are engaged and they the momentum builds naturally. But you might have to ask a few more questions. What did you like about the reading? What didn't you like about the reading? I really love to ask the question, what one word or phrase really resonated with you, really connected with you? Because people who might not share have a huge reflection and share a lot, they can often still pick out one word or phrase that really spoke to them, and that can often build the momentum in the meeting to get you going. As I said, I would encourage you to put these tools on your agendas regularly. It's important to know that while the voices in the passages are representatives of these groups, the tools were curated by a group of white women. Just the way that it happened. We're four white women, and while discussions of bias and privilege occurred during the time that we were creating these tools, because we really wanted to attempt to remain objective, we all walk and view the world with our own experiences. So it's just really important to state that, because as much as we try to be objective, there's no such thing as true objectivity, especially in the discussions of equity, diversity, inclusion, and decolonization. This project incorporates bibliotherapy. It's a non-clinical developmental intervention that promotes connectedness and well-being through guided reading. So in this context, Literacy Link Niagara was using bibliotherapy as a social arena for the discussion of experiences and perspectives of underrepresented groups, which is something that hasn't really been done. So it's a little bit unique, but we were heavily supported by literacy in Durham region. And the best thing about Literacy Network Durham region is that they are experts in bibliotherapy. So we could not have done this without them. The development of these tools was funded by the Ministry of Labor, Immigration, Training, and Skills Development, and they were developed by Literacy Link Niagara, who hired Ashley Hoth Murray and Associates to complete the work. Yes, and let's see. So at the beginning of each piece of each section. I'm gonna make this a little smaller so you can see it. Is just a page that tells you a little bit about the group, the readings that you're going to come across with this group. So people with addictions, with addiction issues, it usually has a little bit of a definition or description about the group. And then a few quick facts that you can take in, and they're very quick facts. So for this one, 21% of all Canadians will struggle with addiction during their lifetime. Um, that might foster some conversation right off the bat. And men have higher rates of substance use disorders than women. And then here we get into the readings. So some might be poetry. So this is a piece of very traditional poetry from Digital Poet, which is someone who experiences addiction issues, and they write poetry as a form of kind of self-therapy. And then we have another piece of poetry. This is very heavily, this is heavily poetry. It's not all like this in all sections. I found this one really interesting. It's a piece that I wasn't exactly sure where to put it. When the fat girl gets skinny, it talks about eating disorder. So it's not necessarily substance abuse, but it is addiction. And so we included that because that might be something that maybe you don't understand. Your staff can have a discussion about how you would support. Maybe you have a local program that could benefit from partnership, and that's a good way to understand that experience. Scars and Stars by Jesse Thistle. You will find a few pieces of his writing through the document. This is called Saint Stella, and this is about the experience of somebody who meets somebody that they knew from past life, and they are not a past life, from an earlier time in their life, and they are experiencing substance abuse. So this piece is actually included in the learner package. The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober. So this is kind of a different piece. It's surprising sober bonuses. So I'm not going to say it's more positive, but it's just got a different spin on the discussion of sobriety. And some of the pieces are actually quite funny, and it's definitely a witty piece. So if you're unsure of the level of emotion around the topic, bringing that into a staff space, this is a great one to bring in. And maybe you choose to read a few out loud and then let everyone read it and pick out the ones that really spoke to them, because it's a bit of a long piece. And then you would get to the next section. So underrepresented group, Black voices. So again, there's your a definition or description related to the group. And there are your quick facts, and then you're right in to the writing pieces. So it's important to note that these are not the only pieces, obviously, that speak to underrepresented groups. So maybe this is something that you choose to start in your staff meetings, and then you ask people to start looking for their own examples in writing. And maybe you even broaden it. Maybe you allow them to bring in videos, YouTube videos, or there can be some great Instagram posts that really speak to somebody and talk about different lived experiences. So these resources are they're just a stepping stone to get the conversation going in your learning space. And if you have any questions, you can contact Literacy Link Niagara, and we are happy to talk to you more about how best to serve underrepresented groups. But choose, use, and adapt these resources as best fit your learning space. Thank you.